An enormous, deeply corrosive organizational hush is now spreading out of Indianapolis. A hush sound believably loud in its absence, it is ripping the entire Indiana Fever supporter community into pieces. The leadership groupies now planted squarely on the most intense, least forgiving decision-making hot seat ever seen in pro athletics. They are engaging in a nerve-wracking, high-stakes financial standoff, and they are doing it against a powerful, largely invisible parallel market that is now pushing to consume the entire organization. Welcome back to WNBA Pro. We absolutely refuse to operate through polished PR messaging. We refuse to passively accept the overly cleaned narrative of unity, chemistry, and harmony. We focus strictly on the harsh, unyielding truth of executive calculations, real leverage, and institutional survival. I need you to secure your space. Silence your alerts immediately and give me your full, undivided analytical focus today, because we are about to break down the most volatile and mathematically intricate off-season situation the WNBA has ever faced. Let us carefully examine the precise, strategically crafted promotional assets recently put out by the Indiana Fever. They unveiled a widely awaited 47-day countdown visual. They published a visually striking monochrome pre-season highlight reel. Within the multi-billion-dollar worldwide sports business, these are far more than casual online uploads. These are carefully approved corporate communications. Every detail is intensely reviewed by branding executives before it reaches the international audience. They clearly spotlighted the undeniable franchise centerpiece Caitlin Clark. They also emphasized the highly valuable paint presence Aaliyah Boston. Yet there was one enormous, impossible-to-ignore absence across the entire rollout. Pay attention to the unmistakable uncertainty pouring from that single detail. I need that intense business reality to fully sink into your analytical mindset right now. Kelsey Mitchell was completely absent. Kelsey Mitchell is far from an ordinary reserve option. She is the second scoring force behind a billion-dollar organization. When a franchise deliberately removes a core component from its worldwide promotional push, it is never a coincidence. It represents a bold, carefully engineered boardroom maneuver. It is a very visible demonstration of executive control. The Indiana Fever front office is clearly delivering a harsh, non-negotiable signal to Kelsey Mitchell's representation team. They are openly indicating that the multi-million-dollar reserve is shut for now, yet this particular corporate approach carries an enormous, potentially disastrous level of organizational risk.
Aaliyah Boston, no Kelsey Mitchell. The Indiana Fever put out a 47 days out poster. Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Michaela Timpson, no Kelsey Mitchell. Where's Kelsey Mitchell? Why isn't Kelsey Mitchell on these posters? Why isn't she in the hype video? Well,
I need you to deeply evaluate the raw, unfiltered risk behind that particular front office move. The Indiana Fever leadership carries a well-established pattern of choosing the safest possible route. In the previous offseason, they were extremely cautious about making an error. They heavily surrounded Caitlin Clark with older, familiar veterans instead of top-tier, fully optimized talent. That exact overly safe approach collapsed badly during the early stretch of the season, and now they are actively trying to shift momentum in the exact opposite direction. They are attempting to take a firm negotiating stance with a player who just produced an extremely efficient high-volume scoring campaign. Let us carefully break down the harsh numbers behind Kelsey Mitchell's present market worth. She is an unrestricted free agent in a system now overflowing with newly injected investment capital. The updated collective bargaining agreement just dramatically raised the salary cap to an incredible $7 million. The Supermax deal is firmly set at $1.4 million. One Supermax agreement now instantly consumes 20% of a team's full financial pool. Kelsey Mitchell, widely recognized around the league as Money Mitch, did not enter this offseason seeking a hometown discount. She absolutely did not endure years of struggling, statistically insignificant Indiana basketball only to accept a major pay reduction now that the spotlight has finally arrived. She is pursuing a massive, highly protected long-term max contract. She completely rejects the idea of signing a restrictive one-year bridge deal just to maintain front office flexibility. If she accepts a one-year contract and experiences a serious injury, her entire market value disappears overnight. She is forcefully pushing the Indiana leadership to make a lasting, uncomfortable call immediately, offer the full premium for long-term security, or watch her enter the open market and consistently drop 20 points against them. However, the Indiana Fever general manager is currently analyzing a completely different financial outlook. The front office understands they are actively holding the ultimate leverage advantage. They control the Caitlin Clark economic effect. They clearly recognize that Caitlin Clark's extraordinary influence completely reshapes the traditional roster-building equation. They reviewed last season's footage very carefully. They observed her dramatically elevate the performance of role players who had been discarded by other organizations. This builds a highly dangerous, overconfident mindset inside the executive leadership. They truly believe they do not necessarily need to offer Kelsey Mitchell a $1.4 million Supermax contract to generate that same level of scoring. They assume they can simply draft a substitute or sign a lower-cost veteran. And Clark's elite transition speed will naturally raise their output. They are essentially wagering the entire title window on the belief that their franchise centerpiece can solve every roster weakness. But this is a massive high-stakes game of corporate roulette. Because while the front office fixates on Kelsey Mitchell's base salary, they are completely overlooking the extremely valuable, rarely discussed parallel economy operating within the hidden dynamics of their own locker room. There exists a powerful multi-million-dollar ecosystem driven by visibility, influence, and positioning. It is an economy directly, undeniably shaped by the unmatched commercial pull of one singular athlete. And one experienced role player just pulled off what may be the most remarkable business maneuver in WNBA history. She did not achieve it by aggressively pushing for maximum salary from her general manager. She succeeded by strategically, decisively leveraging her close connection to the league's most valuable asset.
What about this Indiana Fever front office makes you think they are willing to take the risk of not signing Kelsey Mitchell? Because it would be ballsy for them not to try to retain Kelsey Mitchell's services.
Pay close attention to the undeniable strategic genius behind that particular business collaboration. Sophie Cunningham has just revealed a major multi-part podcast deal with Marriott Bonvoy. Marriott stands as a huge global hospitality corporation that simply does not hand out partnerships to bench-level contributors. She is leading high-profile promotional events in the very heart of New York City. This kind of elite corporate positioning is typically reserved only for MVP-level icons. However, Sophie Cunningham clearly grasped the opportunity when she was boldly moved to the Indiana Fever. She identified the rare opening. She understood that Caitlin Clark attracts an unstoppable audience of millions. When you directly connect yourself to that massive global following, your personal brand value skyrockets instantly. But to unlock that level of financial growth, you must demonstrate complete dedication to the organization. You need to willingly step into pressure and protect the billion-dollar asset. When the Connecticut Sun executed a highly aggressive, borderline reckless defensive approach against the rookie star, Sophie Cunningham did not pause for even a fraction of a second. She immediately engaged to fully protect the billion-dollar asset from additional damage. That one moment of very public, unwavering loyalty completely broke the social media algorithms. Her individual following rapidly surged upward. The worldwide audience instantly rallied around her as the definitive guardian of their most valued star. She then converted that overwhelming online momentum into a huge corporate payout. She flawlessly leveraged the Caitlin Clark proximity effect with striking precision. She demonstrated that you don't have to be the centerpiece to earn top-tier endorsement income. You just need to fully back the leader, knock down open perimeter shots, and capitalize on the spotlight that follows. But this widely shared, extremely profitable example now presents a serious, alarming dilemma for the front office. This exact financial formula is now fully visible across the entire global market, and every upcoming free agent in the WNBA is watching Sophie Cunningham's earnings soar. A vast majority of the league is preparing to enter unrestricted free agency under the updated CBA structure, and they all want a share of the booming Indiana Fever financial ecosystem. This creates a highly unstable, dangerous situation for the team's general manager. Numerous intensely driven, self-focused athletes are mapping their way to Indianapolis. Their priority is not championships or executing a fast-paced transition system. Their focus is securing their own version of the Caitlin Clark effect. They want the followers, the sponsorship deals, and the significant off-court income streams. They are aiming to take over the economic engine for their own personal benefit. These players represent the clear definition of opportunistic leeches, looking to siphon value from the central source. They will enter with deeply self-serving, concealed intentions. They will demand the spotlight without committing to the structured offensive system. If the Indiana front office is not extremely alert, they risk assembling a roster filled with attention-driven mercenaries who refuse to run in transition. And this looming influx directly clashes with the exact financial constraint the organization is currently facing with Kelsey Mitchell.
For the Indiana Fever to proceed. Well, the New York Liberty, they have big decisions coming up this offseason. You got Breanna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu. How the New York Liberty handles this offseason might give us an idea of how the Indiana Fever...
I need that harsh business reality to firmly lock into your analysis right now. The front office is directly facing an inevitable financial reset. You simply cannot retain the entire core. The comfortable, heavily supported era of loyalty and roster stability is completely over. If the Indiana Fever allocate major money to Kelsey Mitchell, if they give in to fan pressure and assign her 20% of the salary cap, they must decisively cut their perimeter defense. They will be mathematically and contractually required to let key defensive pieces like Lexi Hull or Sophie Cunningham leave. You cannot afford to pay both of them in this newly expanded, ultra-competitive market. Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham are no longer low-cost options. They are high-level, in-demand 3 and D wings in a system that places huge value on floor spacing. They have shown total organizational commitment. They have executed the transition system flawlessly and are now commanding significant contracts. If the Fever attempt to keep both alongside a supermax Kelsey Mitchell, they cripple their financial flexibility. They would be left with minimal resources to build out the rest of the roster. They would have to surround Caitlin Clark with slow, minimum-level replacements that completely reduce her dynamic effectiveness. And if they lose Sophie Cunningham, they don't just lose an efficient perimeter scorer. They lose a critical tone setter, the one player willing to physically defend the franchise centerpiece against veteran pressure. The Indiana Fever front office is now stuck in a layered, extremely dangerous financial...
Be prepared to offer AB and Caitlin Clark their salaries this season and next season. This season for AB, next season for Caitlin Clark. Try to bring back Lexi or Sophie. It's going to be one or the other. I don't think both of them are coming. I don't think both of them come back. Does it mean they're not? No, I don't.
Squeeze. If they allow Kelsey Mitchell to walk, they lose their secondary scoring engine and take a major risk on replacing her production. If they overcommit to Kelsey Mitchell, they sacrifice depth, defense, and long-term balance. If they overspend on Mitchell, they obliterate their defensive depth, eliminate any future cap flexibility, and lose the ultimate locker room enforcer. Meanwhile, as executives frantically analyze the numbers, well-funded expansion teams are circling aggressively. Portland and Toronto are hovering like massive, heavily equipped corporate predators. They have wide-open salary caps and the liquidity to offer both Mitchell and Cunningham enormous guaranteed deals. They are actively preparing to snatch the exact assets Indiana most needs to retain. General managers who fail to adapt to this ruthless financial reality will be systematically exposed. The Indiana Fever front office has a single offseason to demonstrate true executive mastery. One misstep on a contract, one bow to toxic media pressure, or one accidental signing of a self-interested podcast seeker instead of a championship-focused player, and they close their own window before it even opens. Welcome to the unforgiving grind of the new WNBA macroeconomic reality. Thank you for joining me here on WNBA Pro. We dissect the undeniable truths of the sports business without compromise. Manufactured narratives and cowardly corporate spin have no place here. We focus purely on the brutal, uncompromising mathematics behind the game. If you want the most ruthless, analytical, and brutally honest basketball insights online, hit that subscribe button immediately to join the top tier of informed operators. Drop a massive like to force this critical corporate breakdown through the algorithm. I want your unfiltered, analytical thoughts on this massive executive nightmare in the comments below. Will the Indiana Fever front office navigate this salary cap trap successfully by decisively cutting Kelsey Mitchell to preserve Trey Lex chemistry? Or will they bankrupt their defensive bench to satisfy fan sentiment? Share your detailed, mathematically grounded predictions. I'll see you in the next high-stakes boardroom breakdown. Don't blink, because this corporate civil war is just beginning, and the weak will be left far behind in the dust.